Hi, welcome to this video. In this video, we'll write the HTML markup for the home section of Vesco project. Let us get started. I've already opened the Vesco project in brackets code editor, and this is the index.html file of Vesco project. I'll click on this live preview icon and it will open this index.html file inside the web browser. As you can see, this web page is blank and there is nothing on this web page. Let us start adding the HTML markup for the home section. I will close this head section so we can get some space and can focus only on the home section. I'll hide this sidebar and I'll resize brackets code editor window so we can see both the code editor and the browser at the same time. Okay, let us get started. I'll write comment for the home section. By now you are very well familiar how to write comments inside HTML document. Next I'll write the very first element inside the body element, and the very first element is section element. The HTML section element is used to represent a generic section inside HTML document. In this case it will represent home section for the Vesco project. I'll add the ID attribute. Attributes provides additional information about HTML elements. In this case, it will provide a unique ID for this section element, and the value for this ID attribute would be home. The value of ID attribute must be unique inside the HTML document. The ID attribute is also used to point to a style in a style sheet. Inside this section element, we need to create some more divs. The first div we need to create is for our hero image. I write the div element and the ID attribute for this would be home cover. The div element defines a division inside HTML document. It is used to group elements which can help us to format elements within CSS. We will use this div element to set the full screen image. Let me show you this one, the hero image. So we will use this div element to set the hero image. Inside this div we need to create some more divs for our content. I'll first create the main div for the content, and I'll assign the ID attribute, and the value for the ID attribute would be home content box. This div element will act as a content box, and we need to create one another inner content box. I'll write the div element and the ID attribute, and the value for this ID attribute would be home content box inner. The reason I created these two content boxes because we will vertical align the content in middle, and these two divs will help us to align our content vertically. As you can see, we have a heading and a button, and they are vertically aligned in the middle of this web page. So these two divs will help us to vertical align the content in middle. Inside this content box inner div, we need to write the HTML markup for the heading and for the button. I'll write the HTML markup for the heading. I'll write the div element. I'll add the ID attribute, and the value for this ID attribute would be home-heading. And I'll write the h3 element inside this div, and I'll start adding the heading for the home section, and the heading is watch out. And I'll add the break element. The HTML break element is used to produce a line break in text. This break element will create a line break in the text of this heading. I'll continue adding the title text. The title is watch out, the modern responsive website. You can also see the live preview inside the web browser on the right side. Okay, next we need to add the HTML markup for our button. I'll write the div element and I'll add the ID attribute, and the value for the ID attribute would be home-button or btn. And inside this div I'll add the anchor element and I'll add the class attribute. The class attribute is used to point to a class in a style sheet. We will use some predefined Bootstrap classes, and we will also create our own custom classes. Let me open the Bootstrap documentation for the buttons. This is the documentation for the buttons, and you can see that Bootstrap provides predefined classes for the buttons. We have btn class, we have btn default class, we have btn primary class, sex class. In our Vesco project, we would be using the btn class and the btn-large class. Let us add these classes to our Vesco project. I'll add btn and I'll add btn-lg. These Bootstrap classes will provide a basic styling for the buttons. Next, I will add the href attribute. We need to link this anchor element to our work section, and for that we will write the hash sign and then the ID value of the work section, which we will create later in this course, and the ID value for the work section would be work. After that I will add the role attribute, and the value for the role attribute would be button, because this link will act as a button. After that I'll add the title attribute, and the value for the title attribute would be view our work. I'll add the closing anchor element, and now I will add the text for this anchor element, which is view our work. So now you can see a basic button on this web page, and this is because of these two classes which are from Bootstrap. I'll remove these extra spaces so we can keep our HTML markup clean. I'll go ahead, I'll save this index.html file. We just wrote the HTML markup for home section, and we can see the result inside the web browser. In next video we'll start styling the home section. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.